So there's this video from the YouTube channel, The Soy Pill, that has been absolutely blowing up online. It makes a series of really bold, escalating accusations against Elon Musk, and it all builds up to the claim right there in its title. So the question is, how does the creator actually build this argument? That's what we're going to do today. We're going to break it down piece by piece. Now, just to be super clear, our goal here isn't to say whether these claims are true or false, but to really understand the way the case is being made. Okay, let's dive into it. The video sets a really confrontational tone right from the jump. The creator basically comes right out and says their goal is to lay out all the reasons why they and a lot of other people hate Elon Musk and to make the case for that provocative title. So this quote, right at the beginning, frames the entire video not as some balanced profile, but as a direct takedown. You know, what's interesting is that the argument doesn't start with personal attacks. Not at all. Instead, the creator's first move is to try and dismantle this public image of Musk as some kind of infallible genius. It's a rhetorical strategy, right? They start by going after his core professional competence and his actual track record as a tech leader. The very first pillar of this professional critique is what the source calls a rapid fire of failed deliverables. So the video poses a pretty simple question. Is there a pattern here? Does Elon Musk make all these grand promises that just don't happen? And it tries to answer that question with a timeline. And here is how they lay out their evidence. They present this series of super ambitious deadlines. Commercial moon trips by 2018, full autonomous driving across the US that same year, 1 million robotaxis on the road by 2020, and even people on Mars by 2023. The whole point of listing these out one after another is to try and establish this pattern of unreliability from the very beginning. So the critique then shifts from the missed deadlines to the products themselves, and they do not pull any punches. The Cybertruck is called out for design flaws and safety issues, the Boring Company is framed as a step backward from a normal subway, and for full self-driving, they make a really specific technical claim that because Musk refuses to use LiDAR technology, the entire goal is basically impossible to deliver. To try and back all this up, the video brings in an anonymous source, someone they say is a former employee. Now, this person is used to paint a picture of total dysfunction inside the companies, alleging that Musk's own teams often had to just ignore his impractical ideas, that he created this culture of overwork, and maybe most importantly, that he was dishonest with the public about how things were really going. Okay, so once they feel like they've poked some holes in his professional reputation, the video totally changes gears. It pivots from what Musk does to who he is. This is where they start a kind of psychological analysis of his public personality, and the argument implies that this personality is the key to understanding everything that comes later. The idea here is that all that early media hype just completely supercharged Musk's ego. This quote is used to highlight the almost godlike language people use to describe him, comparing him to Tony Stark. And they even reference Triumph of the Will, which, if you don't know, is the title of a famous Nazi propaganda film. The video makes a point of saying, we'll come back to that later. And this is where they really lean into the Tony Stark comparison, but with a twist. The source claims that unlike the fictional Tony Stark, who kind of grows from being this arrogant guy to being responsible, Musk is doing that character arc in reverse. They're basically saying that as his fame and power have gotten bigger, he's actually become less empathetic and more reckless. And to really hammer home this idea of recklessness, they just hit you with this list of moments where, in their words, Elon Musk gets things stupidly wrong. The goal with all of these examples is to suggest that his expertise is actually pretty narrow, and that whenever he steps outside his lane, whether it's making programming jokes, predicting pandemics, or getting involved in rescue operations, he makes these huge, very public mistakes. So all of this personality stuff, it all builds up to them labeling Musk a man-child. They point to his sense of humor, his obsession with rebranding everything to X, and even the names of his kids as proof of immaturity. But then it makes a very serious allegation, that by bringing his young son to public events right after saying he feared for his own safety, he was basically using the child as a human shield. All right, and this is where the whole argument pivots hard. The creator starts to connect all these dots, the critiques of his business style, his personality, to his very controversial involvement with the US government. The argument is that now his flaws have consequences for everyone. The core political argument the video makes is actually pretty simple. You can't run a government like you run a for-profit company. The whole point of a government is to serve the people, but a company's goal is to make money.
The assertion is that Musk is taking this Silicon Valley mindset of cutting costs and finding efficiencies and trying to apply it to public services, where success is measured by human well-being, not the bottom line. And to show that this isn't just some abstract theory, they flash this number on the screen: 300,000. That's the number of federal workers the video claims have lost their jobs because of government cuts influenced by Musk. This number is used to frame the whole debate as something with a massive, real-world human cost. And then they bring up what they claim is the most insane example of this whole approach. The video claims the original plan for cuts was to just arbitrarily axe half of everyone by firing federal employees based on whether the last digit of their social security number was odd or even. This is used to portray the policy as not just cruel, but completely unhinged and unresearched. Okay, so this is it. This is where the video finally gets to its most inflammatory charge, the one in the title. This entire final section is dedicated to laying out what it presents as direct evidence of racism.
The first piece of evidence they offer is all about his activity on X, formerly Twitter. The video alleges that since he took over, the platform has become what it calls a Nazi shithole, and that Musk himself is actively engaging with and boosting the content of accounts that it identifies as explicitly racist and anti-Semitic.
And here are the specific examples they use to try and prove this. They list accounts like Rothmus, who they describe as a Holocaust denier, and Raw Egg Nationalist, who they say promotes a white ethno-state. And for each one, they provide an example of Musk allegedly engaging with their content on really controversial topics like the Great Replacement Theory or declining white birth rates. But then they point to one specific reply as the ultimate smoking gun. They show Musk's reply, "You have said the actual truth," to a post that accused Jewish communities of pushing hatred against white people. The video calls this the exact moment Musk showed his true colors and claims it's what led directly to a Jew apology tour. So then the argument moves from online posts to actual, real-world politics. The video gives this detailed description of Germany's AfD party, painting it as a far-right, anti-immigration party that has links to neo-Nazis and a history of downplaying the Nazi era. They're laying all this groundwork for a reason, to set up their final point. And then they drop this alleged quote from Musk right on top of that damning description of the AfD party. For the video's argument, this is the final nail in the coffin. It's meant to connect Musk's own words of support directly to a political party that it has just defined as having Nazi sympathies. So after building this case brick by brick from his businesses to his personality to his politics, and finally to these direct accusations of racism, the video gets to its final conclusion. It summarizes the whole argument and then issues a very direct call to action. And the ending is, well, it's not subtle. It argues that public pressure and what it explicitly calls bullying are working, and they point to falling Tesla profits and reports of Musk stepping back from a government role as proof. The creator frames this continued public negativity not just as something that's justified, but as a moral duty. So we've just walked through all the specific claims and the structure of this viral video's argument. It makes a really forceful, escalating case that ends with this call for public shaming. And it really leaves us with a critical question for our highly connected world. Where exactly is the line between holding public figures accountable and engaging in targeted harassment?